If you think about the human heart, we usually treat it like, I don't know, the ground floor of our house. We sweep it, we keep it presentable for guests.
Right, like the living room where everything is curated.
Exactly. We know exactly where the furniture is, and we generally feel totally in control of the space. But realistically, the human heart is much more like a cluttered, dimly lit attic.
Oh, for sure. Full of boxes you haven't looked at in decades.
Yeah, all these coping mechanisms you packed away in childhood, and you just assume you know everything that's up there. Then somebody comes along with a high-powered flashlight, shines it into those dark corners, and you realize, wow, you had absolutely no idea what was actually hiding under all that dust.
It's a completely disorienting experience, honestly.
Mhm.
We get so accustomed to, navigating by the shadows in that attic that a sudden flood of light just feels startling.
Yeah, people almost always recoil.
Exactly. But introducing that light is really the only practical way to start clearing out the clutter, rather than just like shifting boxes around in the dark.
Well, welcome to today's deep dive. If you are tuning in right now, you, our listener, are likely right in the middle of day 4 of the Baseline Family Church's monthly church-wide fast.
And day 4 is usually when it really hits you.
Oh, absolutely. So, our mission today is to unpack day 4's daily devotional, which is titled, Let God Reveal What You Cannot See on Your Own. We're going to explore how fasting acts as a catalyst for divine revelation.
Right, because for anyone actively participating in this fast, day 4 is traditionally when the physical reality stops being a novelty, right? It starts becoming a bit of a grind.
Yeah, those hunger pangs are demanding your attention today.
Exactly. They aren't just a mild distraction anymore.
So, to you, the listener, we know you're probably feeling pretty physically empty today. The friction is real. But this deep dive is entirely about what you are making room to be filled with.
That's such a good way to frame it.
You are emptying yourself physically to create a vacuum for, well, clarity, healing, and just a radically honest perspective on your own heart. And to understand why we even need that revelation, we kind of have to start with the nature of the human heart itself.
Yeah, and the devotional uses a very specific word to describe it, which is complex.
Complex, yeah.
Because the human heart isn't just a simple machine with a few levers. It's this intricate web of layers, historical wounds, defense mechanisms, and deeply buried motives.
We really operate under the illusion that we understand why we do what we do, don't we?
We do, but I mean, cognitive psychology and spiritual wisdom both totally agree on this. We have massive blind spots. So when the devotional suggests there are things in your heart only God can reveal, it's not like accusing you of being deceptive.
Right. It's not like you're maliciously hiding secrets from yourself.
Exactly. It's just acknowledging a fundamental human limitation. We literally do not have the objective capacity to see the roots of our own reactions.
I know John Bevere talks about this dynamic a lot. He points out that when God reveals truth to you, the goal is to free you, not shame you.
Yes, and you see that exact same thread in Craig Groeschel's work, too.
Oh, really? What does he say?
Well, he notes that the Holy Spirit reveals things specifically to heal them.
Yeah.
And even Rick Warren frames transformation as something that basically cannot happen without revelation acting as the starting line.
So it's a prerequisite.
Right. When you put those three perspectives together, you start dismantling a major misconception people have about being exposed.
Which is so important because, the default human reaction to being exposed is to just panic and throw up a wall.
Oh, 100%.
Like if someone tells you that your motives are flawed, it feels like you're sitting in an interrogation room with a harsh light bulb swinging over your head.
Yeah, we view exposure as condemnation. We just assume the light is there to highlight how terrible we are.
It makes me think of getting an MRI. You might be walking around feeling totally fine, maybe just like a little stiffness in your shoulder. And then the scan comes back and the doctor points to a massive tear in the muscle on this giant screen. It is incredibly uncomfortable to sit there and look at your own brokenness.
Yeah, it's jarring.
But the MRI didn't cause the tear, it just brought it into view so a surgeon could actually repair it. So the devotional reframes this exposure. It suggests that praying for God to reveal your blind spots is opening a doorway to healing rather than, stepping into a courtroom.
I love that MRI analogy.
Yeah.
Because when you realize the doctor isn't showing you the MRI to mock your torn muscle, but to ask for your consent to perform the surgery, the panic just naturally subsides.
You realize they're on your side.
Exactly. And that distinction is so crucial right now during a fast. When we're hungry and depleted, our emotional defenses are already paper thin. So we have to make a conscious choice to stop bracing for impact and start leaning into the diagnosis.
Okay, so once we actually drop those defensive walls, the rubber really meets the road. Because the concepts we are discussing don't just stay in a quiet room while you're praying.
No, not at all.
They immediately spill over into the messy, highly practical spaces of our everyday lives. And the devotional points out that this starts right at the kitchen table. When God shines that flashlight, he often illuminates small attitudes that are creating massive, unnecessary tension in your home.
Yeah, we often think our family problems are these insurmountable mountains, right?
Oh, yeah, we blame our spouse's personality or our kids going through phases.
Exactly. But Revelation acts like a magnifying glass, showing us that the mountain is often just a tiny, sharp pebble in our own shoe.
Wow, a pebble in our own shoe. That's a convicting way to put it.
It is. Because it might be a subtle tone of impatience you use when you walk through the door. Or maybe a hidden fear of failure that you are unknowingly projecting onto your kid's academic performance.
Or carrying unspoken expectations that are silently crushing your spouse.
Yes, that's a huge one.
And when you finally see that you are the one holding the unrealistic expectation, the tension just dissolves. Peace and unity can actually flow into the home because you stop demanding everyone else change to accommodate your blind spots.
Right.
But, okay, if that's how it plays out in the living room, the stakes are arguably just as high when we walk into the office.
Oh, the workplace is the ultimate testing ground for our unresolved internal issues.
It really is.
Through this devotional process, we might discover why a specific management style triggers such an intense, disproportionate anger in us, or why a certain coworker completely drains our energy while others just don't.
Right, or why we find ourselves striving instead of trusting, convinced that our entire career depends on our ability to control every single variable.
Which is exhausting.
It is. But let me challenge this a bit, thinking from the perspective of our listener. Telling someone to look inward at their own triggers when they are stressed at work, that feels like a really tough pill to swallow.
I can see that.
Like if someone is working in a genuinely toxic environment, maybe with a boss who takes credit for their work, isn't telling them to ask God to reveal their own small attitudes bordering on victim blaming. How do we balance this pursuit of internal revelation with the reality of, external dysfunction?
That is such a vital distinction to make. Divine revelation is not about gaslighting yourself into accepting abuse or poor treatment.
Okay, good.
If a workplace is toxic, it is toxic. But here is where the internal revelation changes the game. It returns your agency to you.
How so?
Well, if you are entirely focused on how terrible your boss is, you are essentially a victim of your circumstances. You're powerless until they decide to change, which, let's be honest, they likely won't.
Yeah, you're just waiting around for them to fix it.
Right. But if you ask for revelation, God might show you that your inability to set boundaries with that toxic boss actually stems from your own deep-seated need for approval.
Oh, wow. So the revelation isn't, hey, you are the problem. It's, here's why you are letting this problem destroy your peace.
Precisely. You stop wasting your finite energy trying to control a toxic person. Instead, you gain actionable clarity about your own internal landscape.
You get your power back.
Yes. You realize, oh, I need to set a boundary here, or I need to look for another job and I don't need to feel guilty about it. That clarity makes you incredibly effective. It cuts through the emotional fog and allows you to make grounded, strategic decisions rather than just reacting out of chronic frustration.
Actionable clarity. I love that. The revelation gives us a blueprint for how to operate differently today, right in the middle of the daily grind.
It really does.
But the scope of this goes far beyond just having a better day at work or a calmer dinner with the kids. The devotional scales this up to our broader spiritual lives and how we function within the church community.
This is where we shift into the dynamics of spiritual warfare. Because in any community, especially church community, there are underlying spiritual currents.
Yeah, and the text we're diving into points out how God will reveal areas where offense tried to settle, or where comparison tried to steal joy, or where fear tried to silence your gifts.
That phrasing is so important.
I actually look at offense and comparison like a low-grade spiritual infection. You know when you have a minor sinus infection and you might not even register that you're technically sick.
Oh yeah, you just feel sluggish.
Exactly. Your energy is low, getting out of bed is harder, everything just feels heavy. Unresolved offense acts exactly like that in our spiritual lives. It quietly drains all your joy and vision, and you just assume you're going through a dry season.
That is a perfect analogy. And the language used in the devotional to describe these threats is highly intentional. Offense tried to settle, comparison tried to steal.
Fear. Tried to silence.
Right. That word tried implies an active, ongoing, deliberate attempt to sideline you. These aren't just random negative emotions floating in the ether. They are targeted attacks on your spiritual vitality.
Which means asking for revelation is actually a defensive maneuver.
It is the ultimate defense mechanism. When you pray for God to reveal what you cannot see, you are effectively turning on the perimeter lights around your heart.
I love that visual.
You are exposing the trespassers before they can set up camp and build a fortress. You catch the offense when it's just a tiny seed of annoyance rather than this deeply rooted tree of bitterness. You preserve your spiritual passion by basically identifying the threat early.
And turning on those perimeter lights also reveals the good things that have been hiding in the dark. It isn't just about playing defense against offense or fear.
No, not at all.
Because fasting and seeking revelation plays a massive role in uncovering our purpose. The devotional highlights how God might reveal a calling you've been ignoring or highlight strengths you haven't even utilized yet.
And there is a fascinating physiological and spiritual mechanism at play here during a fast.
Unpack that a bit.
Well, when you're fasting, you are removing a major source of physical comfort and dopamine from your daily routine. Food is often the mechanism we use to numb out or distract ourselves from underlying unrest.
Right, we eat our feeling.
Exactly. So by removing that physical buffer, the noise of your daily life is turned down. Your spiritual senses are heightened. The static clears.
That makes so much sense.
And in that quietness, God can finally bring those unused strengths or suppressed callings to the surface because you're finally sensitive enough to actually hear the prompt.
It's basically a process of refinement that leads to genuine maturity because, we often equate spiritual maturity with accumulating more knowledge, listening to more sermons, or reading more theology books.
Yeah, just gathering information.
But true maturity is rooted in a willingness to be continuously examined. It is the courage to say, hey, show me the cracks in my foundation so we can repair them.
Opening yourself up to that kind of intense examination requires a massive amount of trust, though. I mean, if you're going to hand someone the master keys to your psychological and spiritual attic, you have to know their intentions are pure.
And that brings us to the bedrock of this entire practice. How do we know we can trust God with this incredibly vulnerable process?
It's a big question.
Right. We don't just have to take a blind leap of faith. The devotional gives us a clear scriptural anchor. 1 Chronicles 28, verse 9 states, "The Lord searches every heart and understands every desire and every thought."
Which means God is already intimately aware of the contents of your heart. He isn't searching it to discover something he didn't know.
That's a huge relief.
Yeah, the revelation is entirely for your benefit. He is bringing you in on the diagnosis so that you can participate in the cure. And the motivation behind this search is explicitly stated throughout Scripture. God reveals because he loves.
He reveals because he wants to rebuild what was broken. He wants to strengthen what has been weak and align your life with his kingdom. His truth doesn't destroy, it rebuilds. His light doesn't shame, it restores.
That concept is really the absolute antithesis of how our modern culture operates today.
Oh, completely.
We live in an era where if a hidden flaw or past mistake is exposed, the immediate goal is cancellation, destruction, or just public shame. The world uses exposure as a weapon.
But God uses exposure as a scalpel.
Exactly. When his light shines on a flaw, it isn't to say, look how terrible you are. It is to say, look at this heavy burden you've been carrying. Let's remove it.
That completely flips the script.
Yeah.
And it leads to the culminating thesis of today's study, which is an incredibly profound statement from the devotional. It says, "A heart God can reveal truth to is a heart he can trust to build his kingdom."
That is the ultimate so what of this entire fast. We are pairing the physical act of skipping a meal with the spiritual posture found in Psalm 143, verse 8.
What does that one say?
It says, "Show me the way I should go, for to you I entrust my life." Fasting is a physical, tangible declaration that you are not relying on your own strength or your own understanding.
You're physically emptying your stomach, which mirrors the spiritual emptying of your own pride, your assumptions, and your need to be right all the time.
You are telling God that you value his truth over your own comfort. Because a person who can receive correction without crumbling into a puddle of shame is a person who can be trusted with significant responsibility.
Yeah.
You aren't fasting just to be a slightly more patient version of yourself. You are fasting to become a trusted, resilient vessel.
To recap where we've traveled today for those leaning into day 4 of the Baseline Family Church fast today is all about inviting the light in.
Yes, open those attic doors.
It is acknowledging the deep complexities and blind spots of our own hearts and giving God permission to reveal what is hidden. We do this to find profound, actionable freedom. Freedom from the small tensions at our kitchen tables, freedom from the exhausting striving in our careers, and freedom from the silent, joy-stealing infections of offense and comparison.
And we step into that vulnerability anchored by the absolute confidence that God's revelation is a constructive act of love. It is designed to rebuild and restore us for greater purpose.
So as you navigate the rest of your day, let the physical hunger you feel be a trigger. Let it be a reminder to lean into the prayer of surrender. Ask God to shine his light into the corners of your attic.
And trust that whatever he shows you, no matter how uncomfortable it might feel for a moment, is just the necessary first step toward incredible healing.
It is the catalyst for real transformation.
Absolutely.
We want to leave you with one final thought to mull over as you continue your fast today. If a heart God can reveal truth to is a heart he can trust, then revelation is essentially the prerequisite for promotion in his kingdom.
That's powerful.
So ask yourself what massive future assignment or what unbelievable blessing might be waiting for you on the very other side of the uncomfortable truth you are asking God to reveal today. Keep leaning in, stay strong in your fast, and we look forward to continuing this deep dive journey with you next time.